Hey folks, today is Friday, December 19th, 2025. As usual, my name is Jake Baldino, here to talk about all the video game news that has been going on this weekend. Before we do, just know this is the last Friday show of the year, of 2025. I know, but just know that you're still going to have me every Friday through the holidays, through next year, talking about other stuff, but this is the last, final, up-to-date one, so I just wanted to say, hey, thanks for watching, man. Appreciate it. End of the year, though, things quiet down, but not enough. There's actually quite a bit of news. So the first thing involves, just check out this cool game first. We always do this as a palate cleanser. This is Supreme Experiment, and this actually had its debut on IGN's channel a couple of days ago. They revealed the trailer for this, and it looks absolutely crazy. It's just crazy cool sci-fi art up the wazoo. This is like I've seen a lot of people say that this is what the Electric State movie should have been like, based on that type of art. And this has got a real good Russian spin to it. It seems like it might be a Russian developer. We don't know too much about them. They're called Argonov Games. The game clearly takes some Russian inspiration in the game, but the sci-fi stuff here is absolutely off the charts. We don't know if it's open world yet. There is some speculation it is, looking at some of the screenshots and stuff like that, and just all the different types of environments, but we know it's going to be a first-person shooter adventure with immersive sim and survival elements. But this game also looks like one of those ones that's too good to be true. I'll say that right off the bat. We're still skeptical because this just looks crazy, and it's is this even a real game? Because that's where we are in 2025, but still, it does look pretty wild. I think the art direction does look incredibly inspired, and it's nice that those inspirations are up front here in a world where you can press a button on your phone and fart out an ugly fake image anytime you want. It might be a long time till we hear more about this one, but the trailer is impressive. I'm still going to be cautious, skeptical of this one, but if you were just looking for something a little interesting today, figured we'd start out with this. Now, another thing in the news this week is another Half-Life 3 rumor. Now, Tyler McVicker and the Half-Life subreddits and stuff have been going crazy for weeks now. It seems more and more like Half-Life 3 at this point really might exist, and we get all kinds of weird little leaks and rumors and speculation all the time. The newest one comes from this. Mike Straw is reporting, and this is what some people have also suggested, but he is reporting that Half-Life 3 is a Steam Machine launch title, and the Steam hardware is going to be set for spring 2026. Now, Mike Straw, it's worth noting, has gotten stuff right in the past, specifically around some studio layoffs and some sports games. He followed up on Reddit with this, and I quote, the person he spoke to, his main source, is adamant that the game was planned to be a launch title for the Steam Machine, and that the plan was for it to launch in spring 2026. The only thing changing things now is the whole RAM shortage, RAM pricing debacle, which is probably leading all types of people around the industry to think about release timings and prices and whatnot. But yeah, that's what we got here. If you want to read up on it, I'll link all this stuff in the description down below. Honestly, it's still a crapshoot. Half-Life 3 feels like it's always going to be this ethereal thing, and it's been memed to hell at this point so much. Also, I think Half-Life Alyx was a great game. That to me was my own personal little Half-Life 3, but obviously not like Gordon Freeman. So it's crazy to even talk about this because Half-Life 2 was over 20 years ago at this point. So I feel like an Uncle Grandpa talking about an old game that I see all these kids excited for. They don't even know, man. Sorry if I blew some of your minds by letting you know that Half-Life 2 is over 20 years old. I apologize for that, but I am excited to see if Valve is bold enough to make a new sequel to such an old franchise, let alone also put it on their new hardware. I did an interview with Valve. We spoke to Valve. We looked them in the eye and asked them about Half-Life 3 and Half-Life 3 coming as a launch title, and they didn't say anything. But we tried. Check out the Friends Per Second podcast if you haven't seen that. But yeah, that's what we got for Half-Life this week. This has been Jake's Half-Life Corner. And speaking of hardware news and stuff like that, it looks like Nvidia might actually be cutting back on RTX GPUs in 2026. Yes, this comes from a new report. WCCF Tech reports, and they cite all these Chinese information boards that, quote, Nvidia could trim Blackwell gaming GPU production by 30 to 40% in the first half of 2026. With people saying that specifically that's going to kind of affect the middle tier models, think a 5070, 5060 Ti, stuff like that. And if this is the case, this absolutely sucks. The reason or the speculation as to why Nvidia would do something like this is because of prices and memory and all these things changing and fluctuating, but also the pressure of data centers for computer processing, for AI processing and all that stuff. So basically it's all a crapshoot right now. And it's like the RAM and the price of RAM going up for PC gaming builders, like that sucks. That's one thing. But now the graphics cards, the gamers are going to rise up at this point if they keep pulling this shit. Hey, now before I keep yapping, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, all right? It's boot.dev. I'm pretty pumped about this because I've been using boot.dev for quite some time now, and essentially they're great because they understand that learning programming online can be kind of boring. So they straight up made it a video game, which is music to my ears. Yes, they made learning programming a video game. They got a bunch of different courses, Python, Go, JavaScript, and the GOAT, Linux. But all these courses are like intuitive, interactive things. They walk you through the process, and like I've said, it's like you learn by doing, which I think makes such a difference. You're hands-on with these concepts, but the way it goes down, the way it's broken down is it's kind of like an RPG. Do well and you earn EXP and you level up. If you screw up, you actually take a hit to your armor rating. There's potions for EXP boosts, there's a bunch of different stats, there's some stat tracking, and there's a really solid dedicated community on Discord too. The way it works, learning programming takes time. That's the brutal, honest truth. And boot.dev gets this, and they figure, why not make it a game? Why not feel like you're grinding out quests in a JRPG or something like that? You get that here. This thing as a platform is always updating. More things to do, they add community boss battles. It's just an awesome concept, and when you see it in front of you and you start going through it, you get it. It clicks. And for me especially, I've said this before, but it's like a lot of the ways the courses go down, the wording, some of the things you have to do just makes it feel like it understands video games, like the game industry and like, you know, the in-jokes. And I like that. If you're kind of like a hardcore gamer like me, you might enjoy some of the nods and references here. They make it easier to learn, so you should check it out. Believe it or not, there's like a demo. You can go to boot.dev, get started, start some courses for free, and then when you're there, you can use code gameranx to get 25% off your first payment of boot.dev. Again, get started, check out that demo, go to boot.dev, and then when you're there, use code gameranx to get 25% off your first payment. Again, it's legitimately fun. Check it out. And big thanks to boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Now back to what I was saying. Also this week, Marathon made a return. Bungie's new game, their first-person shooter, an extraction shooter, has been re-revealed. You remember that it was delayed after like arch plagiarism complications and a ton of feedback they got with their open tests and criticism. So here they are now with their PvPvE extraction shooter. It is now slated officially for March 2026. They also went pretty in-depth with this developer doc that acknowledged a lot of the changes, their retooling runner abilities, the loot system, a lot of stuff that I think rightfully should have been changed. I have gotten my hands on Marathon, so it seems like it's in the right direction, but is it going to be enough? That's the question, because I have no idea. It's like all these different free-to-play shooters, it's all over the place. They either grab people's attention or they crash and burn very quickly. And Marathon, we now know they are still targeting now a $40 price point. So a lot of people, myself included, thought maybe they should have went cheaper or free to play or something like that with this, but they're doubling down and they're charging money for it. And the only reason why I say that maybe it does have a chance there is because look at Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders charged money for their extraction shooter and people are enjoying that, and that's done well. Look, I don't know. I have no idea how this is going to go, but either way, it was nice to hear an update on this. So Marathon is still coming. Also, if you're online, if you're deeply online, the conversation this week in the gaming world has been about AI in video game development after Larian founder and studio head Sven Vinke, he went on record talking about them, you know, essentially considering and testing and working with AI in game development, specifically around their like new Divinity game. This led to an uproar very quickly because obviously like people don't want like AI generated shit garbage in their games, right? But that doesn't seem to be the case because Sven did clarify and how this works out. Like, you know, Larian has actually been hiring more and more artists and buying an entire agency. He just said as a leader, they're kind of exploring where they can use AI in their tool sets to help make game development an easier thing, a faster thing. And I think that is very clearly something that all developers are doing and have been doing for some time. I've seen plenty of projects behind the scenes that have AI placeholders and shit like that, because it's not just AI generated images and videos. I don't think that's the concern here. They did clarify that all their stuff in the game that you see in game is going to be handmade. It's more about some of the tools behind the scenes, the organization side, the data side, the programming sides. So I don't think it's a matter of like AI slop that people will quickly like write it off as. I do think it's more nuanced than that. And I hate saying that because like it is boring, but like that is the case here. A lot of developers have talked about AI and how they want to use AI to make games, but not necessarily for the art part. But I think, actions speak louder than words, and we're going to have to wait and see. But I do want to point out and link a really good article from This Week in Videogames.com. They do some great reporting. They're a smaller site, but this essentially goes in detail. They interviewed a bunch of people in the game development world, specifically concept artists, about use of AI and how it doesn't seem like it's great for them, but there is more context about like how the world of making video games works. So if you want to read that, it's linked in the description down below. Also, I have good news and bad news. The first is that video games are doing bad. Nobody's buying them. So there are a lot of video game numbers out now from Circana, the video game analyst firm that releases their big numbers of video game software and hardware sales. Video game sales, specifically physical and digital, not counting DLC. So apparently, video game physical software and hardware sales have had the worst November, the November that just passed, in the United States since 1995, which sounds wild. Hardware spending for consoles was down 27% year over year. So take that for what you will. Is it the growth of PC gaming? Is it a lack of interest? Is it just everything being really expensive and people being down and not wanting to buy a freaking console or have the money to buy a console? Probably, and maybe also at this point, they might be reaching critical mass at this point with, the types of games on offering and what people see out there. Maybe everyone that wants a console has one at this point. I don't know for sure, but it's curious. It's very interesting to see where this is going to go. Now, on the more positive note, at least for some people, in terms of like the top list of games sold for the year, Battlefield 6 is number 1, with Call of Duty Black Ops 7 down at like number 6 or 7 on that ranking list, which is pretty crazy. So you have it here now that Battlefield 6 apparently succeeded this year. Now, I think this is a good thing specifically because I think Call of Duty has been resting on their laurels for far too long and churning out a game every year and not innovating enough and not really shaking things up or generating hype in the way that they used to. And now you have Battlefield 6 coming here, and hopefully that really causes Call of Duty to reconsider, go back to the drawing board, and really try and surprise players. They already put out a statement last week we talked about how they're changing up how they release some games. They're not going to do Black Ops games back to back or Modern Warfare games back to back. And I'm curious to see how this grows and how this changes. Also, some new game trailers this week. I know we had the Game Awards last week, but there's still new things being revealed. So the first is Holstin. This looks awesome. This is a retro-style survival horror game. It looks like it takes Resident Evil influence, maybe even Disco Elysium influence. There's a lot going on here from a gameplay perspective and a visual perspective. That just looks sweet. Also, check out Everrail. This has kind of been a growing trend. A lot of games are trying to build off of the whole Snowpiercer concept, like a train survival game. And this is another one. It's very clearly multiplayer driven and taking on these trains. So yeah, check that out. Also, Taxi Chaos 2. The first one released, and I never got my hands on it, but essentially this is like a spiritual successor to Crazy Taxi. Like if they're not going to give us one of those, I'll take a PC indie version of that. And this is actually releasing pretty soon. And also for my stalkers out in the zone, don't miss, Stalker 2 got like a free DLC update. It's called Stalker 2 Stories Untold. So you got like new NPCs, new quests, new things to do, and it's free. It's pretty sweet. Also, Mariachi Legends. This just looks sick as hell. This is like just kind of like a mariachi, kind of like haunted mariachi guy style version of like a Metroidvania game. The art looks cool. The sprites look cool. I'm just into this. Also, Tainted Grail, the kind of underrated Skyrim-like game that released earlier this year, if you remember us covering that. It's getting some new DLC. This DLC is called Sanctuary of Saras. And actual video game releases for the week. This technically was kind of last week, but Terminator 2D, No Fate. This is the retro 2D Terminator 2 style game that I've been excited about for months. It's extremely short. It's brutally short. It's like you can get like 2 hours out of this thing if you're good enough. And that is not good. I say that as someone who specifically had pre-ordered and bought the physical collector's edition for $70. That being said, I think this game is a work of art, and when it is deeply on sale, if you like any of this type of shit or you love Terminator like I do, you should absolutely try it at some point. Also, Divinity Original Sin 2 got a next-gen release kind of out of nowhere for the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch 2. It's a good RPG, so there you go. Also, Splitgate Arena Reloaded is out now. Splitgate kind of had to go back to the lab and revamp some things, but I'm curious to see how the player base goes with this one. Also, shout out to my Avatar heads out there. Praise Awa. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, the pretty underrated Ubisoft Avatar game, got new DLC based on the new movie, Fire and Ash. This is the From the Ashes DLC, and we're going to be diving into this soon. But that's everything I got for you in the news this week. Like I said, the year is wrapping up, so thank you for listening, but let me know what the hell you guys are playing for the holiday times, right? There's going to be a pinned comment. It might be a sponsored comment, but reply to that comment thread. Let us know what you're playing for the holidays because it helps us a lot. Like I said, this is the last Friday show, but I'm going to have more Friday show stuff for you, including our best games of 2025, like our team wrap up, as well as looking back at some of the best news stories of the year. But that's it. That's all I got for you. So I'm going to get back to work, but thank you very much for being here. Hit me up on social media at Jake Baldino if you want. My YouTube channel, Jake Baldino. But that's all I got for you guys. So have a great one. Have a great holiday. Be safe. Pizza's on me.